At this point in time, many of you have already informed yourselves about the Ashes of Creation debacle. Many of you have already investigated and consumed all the information that other content creators have exposed about this scam, about the Ashes of Creation scam. There is no point in me going through all the details again because probably the other content creators have already said more that I can say about this. So the thing that I can give you instead is the reason why many people decided to make blind eye to this scam. Many content creators are going to talk about all of the aspects that were involved in this scam, and we need that information. But personally, I think it's more important to explain to people why many people fall for this. And this is what I am going to do. This is my contribution to the gaming community. I am going to explain to you why probably you fell for this scam. So for this explanation, I am going to bring back Sean Murray. Everybody knows who Sean Murray is. He is the creator of No Man's Sky. Everybody knows that No Man's Sky started with the left foot. It was a shit show when it launched, and everybody knows that Sean Murray lied to the community. He lied to his audience.
Will you be able to play with your friends? Yeah.
And the reason why I am bringing Sean Murray is because if you are a very observant person, or even if you aren't, I am going to tell you that whenever Sean Murray was interviewed, whenever these interviewers pushed back against Sean Murray's narrative, he was visually uncomfortable. He showed signs in his body language that he was in fact lying, or that he was nervous. At the very least, he seemed like a very nervous person whenever he faced these difficult, these hard questions that he was asked. I want you to remember, I want you to try to go back to that time, or maybe go and see some of the videos of these interviews and try to remember Sean Murray's reaction to those hard questions about his game. Now try to remember how Steven Sharif behavior was when he was talking, when he was asked questions. Did you ever saw Steve Sharif stutter or in a position where he was unable to get out? No, I don't think so.
So overall, where would you say the Harbinger update in terms of importance to you as a developer is ranking in our recent, just the scape of Alpha 2 updates through Phase 1, Phase 2, 2.5, 3? Where do you think it falls in so far in terms of a major update for both current and hopeful players in the future?
Well, first, before we get into the questions, let me just say I'm super happy to chat with you. And very excited to be on your channel because, you know, you have fostered a really cool community. I know I've told you this privately in the past, but from a developer's perspective, when we think about, you know, the types of audience that are excited for the game that we're making, and this isn't just from my perspective or from our studio perspective, this is from a development community perspective. When we think about the individuals who help contribute to making better products, making better games, making better communities, making, you know, environments where developers can feel welcome, where, you know, you can inform your audience that we're one of you guys, this is why we're in this industry, like, you do a phenomenal job at that.
Thank you.
You know, it's not from the perspective of being a white knight or being a cultist or being a doomer, you know, on those, you know, sides of the spectrum that
Absolutely.
so often we see society has just become this, like, you know, 0 or 100 and there's no between, right? Like, it's sad to see that that translates even into the gaming ecosphere, right? Societies, you know, especially in American culture that we see today with politics and whatnot, it's sad to see that division. We don't need to see it in the gaming ecosphere either. So it's really cool to see you foster that community. You give feedback, you give criticisms, you know, it's always constructive, it's always respectful, but, you know, it's with the same end in mind. which is to see a successful outcome.
Thank you.
And if you judged the result of Ashes of Creation, or if you attempted to evaluate if the game was going to come out based just on Steven Sharif's composure or behavior, you will bet that the game was about 99% going to come out exactly as Steven said. And the reason why is because Steven Sharif is a very well-spoken person. Steven Sharif is a great talker. Steven Sharif is a person that is very convincing. So at this time you're going to ask, then how were we supposed to know that this was a scam if the same Steven Sharif was very convincing, as you just said? How we were supposed to see the end, this impending doom that was coming to us? Well, this is the thing that you people need to understand. When you're dealing with this type of people that are very skilled at lying, that are very skilled at finessing people, that are very skilled at whistling in, that sound and are very convincing, what you need to do is always go to the facts. The facts. You need to go to the facts. And you also need to judge these people based on their actions, not on what they are saying. So let's make two different groups. Let's separate people based on their reaction to Ashes of Creation. We have Group A, which is the believers, the people that decided to believe in Ashes of Creation. And on Group B, we have people like me, people that decided that this shit was a scam. Let's start from the beginning. Steven Sharif starts talking and convinces everyone that he's working on the best MMO that has ever released. Now, at this point in time, it's very difficult, just based on what Steven is saying, to judge if this is a scam or it is legit. So based on the original Kickstarter launch, on whenever this MMO, this Ashes of Creation project was widely known or was announced, based on that alone, it's very difficult to reach a conclusion. So what made Group A go forward to support this project, and what made Group B unable to support this project at that point in time? There is a key part that protected Group B, and this protection that Group B has is the fact that they don't gamble with their money. You're probably confused right now, but what I mean with this is that Group B doesn't want to invest their money into Kickstarters, into early access. So I am going to try to project my own mentality into Group B to explain to you why I decided to not support this from the very beginning. You see, I am a person that doesn't want to spend their money on whatever the fuck. I protect my own money. I don't go spending money on everything. So the way I spend my money basically is in a wise way. So whenever I see a Kickstarter, I always know that if I give them my money, I am basically gambling with my money. And is gambling a very wise use of your money? Of course not. The only way I would gamble with my money if I know for a fact that I am going to win. And let's be honest, if you invest your money on a Kickstarter or on an early access product, you're probably going to lose. Now, early access is a lot of times much better than a Kickstarter, but even then, I don't go supporting early access. The only time I support early access is in very particular cases, like in the case of Palworld, games that I see that have real promise, where my chances of winning are basically like 90% chance of winning. Other than that, I don't do it. So this protection, this ability to wisely spend your money was the protection, the first layer of protection that Group B had. Group A didn't have this protection for many different reasons. Maybe they think they don't have to protect their money because they are rich. Who knows? But in my opinion, the real rich people, the real wealthy people, protect their money. They don't go out overspending it. So that was the first layer of protection. Now the only way you would had not supported this project was because you made some research about Steven Sharif's past. And if you made that research, you would have seen that Steven Sharif was part of multi-level marketing schemes. His own mother was part of them, so you will obviously not support his projects based on that.
Go. Hey everybody, I was challenged by TJ over at Zango Corporate, a good friend, to do the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge to help raise awareness for Lou Gehrig's disease. It's a serious illness out there that needs our attention, and if you can donate to it, donate. I challenge Eric Eicherman, Aaron Hoops, and Donald the Waddling Duck Johnson. So here we go. Ooh, I don't know if I want to do this. Oh, this is not going to be good. This is not going to be good. Ew. Oh! Is it cold? Oh! Cold? Okay, that was cold.
As time goes forward, Steven Sharif claims many times that the project is mostly self-funded, and many people choose to believe what he says because he's a very good speaker. He's very convincing. Now, the other layer that protected Group B was the fact that they were always fact-checking what he said. So they would investigate and find out that, in fact, Steven Sharif was lying because there were companies that were funding the project. He was lying. He received money, he received loans from other companies, and one of these companies was another very scummy company that was caught doing pyramidal schemes. This is major red flag behavior. Now back to the Kickstarter. Steven himself, his own Kickstarter, also used very similar pyramidal scheme affiliate programs to recruit other people into supporting the Kickstarter. That was another red flag. But for people that didn't investigate anything about Steven Sharif's past, probably they saw it as just as a normal thing or didn't very thought much about it. Fast forward, the alpha testing started, and he started charging very outrageous sums of money for participating on an alpha as a tester. Motherfucker, they should be paying you for testing their shit games, not the other way around. And the problem was that the prices were, as I said, outrageous. Now, Steven is not a dumb person. He did this because he knew that the industry, in the gaming industry, this behavior was now accepted. Many other games have had this paid alpha testing, and in many's opinion is outrageous behavior, but the fanatics, the blind fanatics, the consumers had enabled companies to do this. So Steven Sharif took advantage of this stupid behavior, and he launched his own alphas, his own paid alphas with outrageous pricing. This was one of the first major red flags of the game that many people decided to ignore. Before anything like this was very obvious to me, I remember that I investigated a lot about what were the goals of Ashes of Creation, and Ashes of Creation was going to be a PvP game, one of those full PvP games where psychopaths and sociopaths enjoy to have fun at the expense of others. I heavily dislike those type of games, but Ashes of Creation was going to do something that I think none of these full-blown PvP MMOs have done, which is bring consequences to these stupid abusing people, like in real life. They were trying to implement like a law system where players that abused other people, that basically were engaging in criminal activities inside the game, were going to face consequences. You see, this is stupid. These abusive psychopaths, these sociopaths, these cowards that like to have fun at the expense of others, like to gaslight their victims and say to them that they just don't enjoy consequences in their games, in their MMOs. And the fact of the matter is that those cowards are the ones that don't like the consequences, and Ashes of Creation had a real good way of dealing with that type of scumbags. They were going to implement consequences to being a piece of shit in the game. So whenever I heard that, I said, wow, this is good. If this game releases and this system is in the game, this sounds like something that I would like to support, that I would like to try. But even then, I didn't give any money because of my first layer of protection, which is I only spend my money wisely. So, like I said, the alphas started, and this is when I said, you know what, this is a stupid world. This is clown world. How the fuck are people accepting to pay these outrageous prices to test a game for the developers, to basically to work for them? And I just said, like I always say, it's blind fanaticism. So I didn't fall for this, and when I saw this is when my "this is a scam" radar went from like 40% to 70%. I said, you know what, this is very scummy. This is entering in Star Citizen's territory. But then these guys had the audacity to push in-game cash shop, an in-game cash shop. This is mind-blowing that people accepted to buy items, to buy pixels for a game that is not even out yet. So when I knew about this, my radar went from 70% to 80%. I said, you know what, this is now Star Citizen. This is now a scam citizen. Fast forward, this group, one of these companies that lent money to Intrepid was this Yaya Legacy Trust, and they filed a lawsuit against Intrepid. And the reason for this lawsuit was because they demanded transparency, because they were not dumb, and they are also people that, guess what, they want to spend their money wisely, and they had the feeling that they were not doing so, and that they were maybe being scammed. So they wanted to see all of these statements, all of these things that were hidden from them by Intrepid. So this lawsuit, basically nobody knew about this lawsuit, and if they knew, they dismissed it as something meaningless. But people that were like myself, that had their radar on 80% of more, said, you know what, this shit is like 90% now a fucking scam. These guys at Intrepid are hiding something even from their own investors. So this is something that clearly is going really bad. Alpha 2 starts, and once again, outrageous pricing. My radar was at 90% at this time. I was basically sure that this shit was a scam. Some other content creators also mentioned that this was in fact a scam, and they were voicing their opinions about it. One of them was this guy named Narc, that, as far as I know, because I don't know much about the subject, he was basically afraid of being served a lawsuit, so he deleted his own YouTube channel. Another brave soul that, in my opinion, was even more courageous than Narc himself was Nico Too Low. This guy was outright saying it how it was. Basically, he blew his own money, he played this stupid as fuck scam, and he showed everyone with facts, with evidence, that this shit was in fact a fucking scam. And he said in the thumbnail of his YouTube video, said release date never. And you know why the release date is never? Because he made a calculation on the many features that weren't present in these alphas, and how much time it will take to implement all the supposed features that were promised into the game. And his calculations were fucking mind-blowing. The game was never going to fucking release based on those calculations. It was a scam. It was very easily proven.
Epic world bosses will reflect the development of specific nodes and their location. Our world is designed to react to the players by providing new and exciting chapters to an ever-evolving story. A story that reflects the actions of each server. A story that can change and adapt to provide the players an immersive tale woven by the actions of the community. This dragon is the server's dragon, part of the server's tale, and one which might not be seen on any other server.
Judging by this, they currently have 5 nodes with 3 levels, okay? Which in this case, let's say that's 5 times 3, which is 15, okay? They have 15 node levels. Now, how many node levels do they need in general? You need 85 times 6. So, out of 510, they have 15 out of 510 node levels at the moment. And as we just talked about, the nodes are also kind of copy-pasted still. The node towns are pretty copy-pasted, most NPCs are pretty useless, and so on. So they have nothing in this regard, and this is probably the biggest positive about the game, because right now they say they have 1 out of 18 biomes. These are basically the places on the planet that or on the world that have different terrain. So this one right now is the Riverlands, these are the tropics, this right here is going to be the desert, and they're going to have 18 different biomes. Now I would argue they don't even have the first biome, because the nodes in the first biome aren't even finished, therefore the biome isn't finished, because the biome will change depending on what level the nodes are. I think it's generous to say they have 1 out of 18 biomes. Very generous, okay? We can also talk about the classes and the skill augmentations, which is also like not really anything developed yet, because it only really starts after level 25 with skill augmentations, and they won't have any of that in the game until phase 3. They don't even have all of the base classes ready, and this is only to level 25 again. They don't have any of the religion stuff ready, which could also be augmentations. I think even races can have augmentations. We can also talk about races. That basically there's only one race in the game, because all of the races have basically the same animations. So this right now is the female Vec Orc animations of me hitting and jumping and walking and stuff. And this right here are the animations of, I think, the Kalar humans. And as you can see, it's the exact same. There's no difference. I can't tell a difference anyways. If there's a difference, I can't tell that there is a difference. So just from that, I wouldn't even say that they have 3 races. I think this is already misleading. They have 1. So all in all, I don't think this game is going anywhere. I genuinely don't believe that they are anywhere near completion, and there's so many, like, there's 2 people in the Ashes of Creation community. One is like, this game is so much better than even the current MMOs and it's only an alpha, and the other one is like, you can't criticize the game because it's in alpha. So either way, I don't, even if they've been developing this for 2 years, I think this is questionable, and 8 years is just an insult, especially considering they're charging $120 for this, and 5 years ago they had a much better, in my opinion, baseline of a game. The more I play, the more I think this is not going fucking anywhere. This is not a game yet. There's barely anything in it, and I just can't see this going anywhere, unfortunately. If they're going at this pace, I think you're lucky if this releases in 10 years with all of the features in it. Just judging by what they have made so far, I'm honestly, the more I play, the more worried I am. Genuinely, I think they will run out of money before they go anywhere with this, because if they keep developing the game at this pace, this will genuinely never release. This will genuinely never release.
You didn't even need to go and do a lot of research. All you needed to do was open your eyes, man. All you need to do was trust your instincts, trust your pattern recognition, trust your eyes, trust your ears, trust your senses. But you didn't. To make matters worse, you also had, aside from Steven Sharif, which is a master on manipulation tactics, you also had all of these stupid content creators that are basically grifters. They are basically grifting. They were grifting Ashes of Creation and were helping to gaslight the people into keep investing into this sham. All of these creators, and among those creators were people like Asmongold. A lot of people knows Asmongold, and if Asmongold says this shit is real, a shit ton of people are going to believe him because they are that fucking dumb. These content creators move massive amounts of people. They have their own cults. So basically you had a cult around Ashes of Creation, around Steve Sharif, which also, another fact is that he sequestered Ashes of Creation's Reddit. He demanded total control of the Reddit because he wanted to control the narrative. So Reddit, basically, all of these subreddits are basically churches of these cults. If you go to Souls-like r/Souls-likes, that's the church of Souls-likes. If you go to r/Asmongold, that's the church of Asmongold. Those /subreddits are churches, are the cults, are where the cults reunite to glaze each other, to circle jerk, and to worship whatever the fuck they are worshipping there. So the Ashes of Creation cult was mixed with the cults of these other content creators, and basically they made a massive cult. So even if you weren't trusting Steven Sharif, you will trust Asmongold because he's your cult leader, and you will trust many of these content creators that brainwashed their own audience into believing that this game was in fact real. And the reason why these content creators did that is because they wanted to hype this thing. And why did they wanted to hype this thing? Because they wanted to live, they wanted to make a living, they wanted to exploit, they wanted to make money, they wanted to farm the NPCs, you people. They wanted to farm you, and they also wanted to farm the possible future release of this game. So you were convinced by multiple people. This is why you need to applaud what Narc did, what Nico Too Low did. You need to go and follow those people because those people are actually telling the truth. And fuck it, I am another person that always speaks shit as it is, but you want to follow people that don't want to tell you the truth, that want to grift you, because you are dumb. And I'm going to tell you the reason why you fell for this shit is because you are under spell. You are under different spells. You are under the spell of mind control. You are under the spell of charm. You are completely blinded. So why are you susceptible to these spells? Why? It's very easy actually. The reason why is because you lack wisdom. It's because you lack willpower, and those spells require a wisdom saving throw to avoid them. Essentially, you are dumb as fuck. This is why you are susceptible to these spells. But that is a very easy answer. I am going to give you a more complicated answer in a bit more time. So after that, they released on the 11th of December of 2025, they released Ashes of Creation in early access on Steam. This is when my radar went from 90% to 100% this shit is a scam. And you know why? It's because everybody knows that every game that has its own launcher, its own way of playing the game outside of Steam, every game that has its own ecosystem, and for some reason that game comes to Steam, it's because that game is in financial trouble, like Overwatch or Guild Wars 2. Many games have done that in the past, but we already know that when a game like that comes to Steam, it means the game is almost dying. It's about to die. Now, some games manage to recover when they launch on Steam and more or less keep being on live support, like Guild Wars 2 or Overwatch. So whenever they released on Steam, it was very fucking obvious that this game was going nowhere. This shit was in serious trouble. There was no other reason why they would launch on Steam. They had no reason to do so, other than the fact that the game was failing to be made. That's it. Fast forward a few days ago and Steven Sharif resigned in protest, quote unquote. He wants to go as the hero even though he was the major scammer in this sham, and he says he doesn't want to support this board. Funnily enough, this board consists of himself and his husband, so I don't know what the fuck he's talking about, but he wants to basically go down as a hero, and as any of these scammers, he doesn't want to take any accountability for his own actions. So the scam is confirmed. And one of the reasons that you failed to see the scam is because you don't have the first layer of protection, which is spend your money wisely. Don't gamble with your money. That first layer will have prevented you from losing money. The second layer of protection that you failed is that you're dumb as fuck. You don't trust your instincts. You are easily manipulated because you are dumb as fuck. You have no wisdom, you have no intellect, or maybe you have intellect but you don't have wisdom. You are dumb as fuck, so you're easily manipulated. That layer was not present in the people that fell for this scam. So you don't protect your money, you don't spend your money wisely, you don't have the intellect to make your own research, you don't have the wisdom to detect these scams. You don't trust your instincts, you don't trust your senses because you're dumb as fuck. And finally, the reason why you fell for this scam is because you are an empty shell. You see, at some point in your life, you decided you were, I don't know if you decided or you most likely were trapped into disconnecting with the source. You were disconnected from your humanity and you're empty. That disconnection, that disconnect from the source made you susceptible to these scams and made you more prone to be manipulated. You are empty, and this emptiness, this vacuum inside of you wants to get filled. It wants to get filled with something. You're searching for something that you're missing, and you're not going to ever find unless you connect back to the source, unless you connect back with your own humanity. Because right now you are an NPC. You were made an NPC. You were made a bot, something that is easily programmed and controlled. You see, these companies, they wanted to make you buy their products, and with the passing of time they became greedy and more greedy and more greedy, each time greedier. So what they made, what they schemed, what they planned was a way to manipulate people from the early stages of their lives. So they conditioned people to follow, they conditioned people to be sheep, and they disconnected them from their own humanity. And when that happened, they became empty. And this emptiness is now filled with brands, with corporations, with slogans, with content creators, with false promises, with blind faith, basically with fanaticism. You don't have a personality. You don't have a real personality. You are not a human. You lost your humanity. You are hollow. You are hollow. And that hole in you wants to be filled because it's a basic human need. And these companies, this oligarchy, made it possible to make people empty. So they fill that void inside themselves with their own corporation bullshit. And people like you, like I said, they don't have a personality, and all your miserable lives are about the things that you like. You're basically human propaganda walking the street. Whenever people talk to you, you talk to them about how great are the companies that you buy products from. How great is this show? How great is this video game? How great is this brand? How much this corporation slogan hit your heart? You're pathetic, you're blind, and you're empty, you're hollow, you're dumb. And they made you like this. And the only way to get out of these spells is to reclaim your humanity back. That's the only way.